Big sneeze to start the stream. Big sneeze to start the stream. Big sneeze to start the stream. Did you just have the window open the whole time? How'd you get here so soon? How did you get here so soon? All right. I want to fix a thing. Diff with previous version. No, not DXGI. D3D11. Diff with previous version, because like that, like that, like that, and like that, and like that. And then I don't know why I was dumb and did that the wrong way. Okay, so the comment still applies. Now I got to fix everyone who uses that. Cyberpunk. Is it an ad for the PlayStation 4 version of Cyberpunk? Does nobody even use these in the tests? I thought there was a D3D11. Maybe not. Compiler bug, IC test D3D example. Maybe he doesn't use it. Do we build that? Why did we turn off D3D11 example? Oh, this is supposed to be floats. Oh. All right. Look, it's the D3D example. Do we distribute that? We're not exporting any of those. Most of these are probably not that useful, but the D3D11. Let me just move that out of there. We'll just put it in the examples folder. Because I think Ignacio made that as a simple test to test the API, but okay. But it's like enough of a sample program that people would appreciate that in their own right, you know. Is that supposed to be yellow, though? Usually, the triangle is red, green, and blue, right? So what's going on there? I'm just going to make it a little bit nicer. What does the period do? It is a thing in human biology where certain people have a monthly. You like yellow triangle, okay. Look at all this stuff you have to do a triangle. Render. D3D context draw. Vertex shader. Okay, no, it's literally a yellow triangle. Okay, so that's fine. Let's make it a nicer color. How's that? That's, could use a little more green than blue. That's, yeah, okay. Okay, added examples D3D11 example to the distribution. Boy, people are going to like this beta. Cyberpunk or Riot. Ever played The Witness on stream? No, but I did play it on the Giant Bomb coverage of the game, and I played the speed run. There's a gray word in the green comment. Welcome to Emacs. Emacs doesn't make any sense. So have fun with that. Okay, so now I can go back to the thing. Actually, let me run the test to make sure the test script is working. Do we like actually run these programs, or do we just compile them? Oh, I typed the name wrong. I guess we don't really run them. Seems bad. Come on. Oh, wait. Casey's rant today was good. Yeah, I missed probably a good portion of the rant. I am in a little bit different of a place than Casey on that. Like, for sure, there's something to be said for holding a team together and not needlessly aggravating other people on the team. But, you know, if you make a team, you get to set the agenda for what that team is like and how it should operate. And yeah, I agree with the assessment that, I got canceled. I agree with the assessment that I would say there are multiple dimensions of things that don't seem entirely positive about programming culture of the past that actually were helpful in some way, and that you discard those at your peril, right? That's what I think. I think you discard those things at your peril. And also, somebody has to, like, this whole like shaming people for not being millennials in their attitude is it has to be pushed back against, because there has to be a cost. There has to be some cost to attempting to get everybody to behave like you would have them behave. Otherwise, that's all anyone will do. So social costs must be imposed for that kind of thing. That's just how it is. He could have discussed the problem without berating a person. Well, I didn't see probably the start. I only saw after somebody was complaining to him. But, I mean, I get attitude from people all the time who think that I'm a terrible programmer because I don't do modern C++ or whatever. So I don't see the difference. And the problem is that any sort of pushback to the snowflake agenda is asking for the Twitter mob to lynch you. That is true, but that's why you got to do your pull-ups. And then you just uppercut them when they come to lynch you. Do not underestimate the power of a correctly placed uppercut. I have a timer going because I have the meatballs in the oven. I ate some of one of them and now I was like, I should warm these up more because they didn't quite get cooked enough. I mean, the code looked like poop to me, to be honest, so I would not object to calling that code poop. Like, it had all sorts of arbitrary decisions about what it was and wasn't handling with absolutely no in-code explanation of the reasons. That's terrible. Like, why would you even think it's okay to check that in? That said, again, I missed the majority of it, so. Yeah, I think people might feel threatened that if they check something in, like, okay, the open source philosophy is, the current open source philosophy is, everybody can program and everybody can check stuff in, and it's always positive to do that and help. And you're building the software along with everyone else. So I think if someone sees someone like Casey criticize code that's checked in that way, it might, at least subliminally and maybe consciously, reverberate like, oh, if I check in something, I could be judged in such a negative way, and I don't want that. But actually, like that rah-rah, everybody's happy and holding flowers picture of software development is wrong. Like it matters if you check in stuff that is very good, or if you check in stuff that is mediocre, or if you check in stuff that is bad. That matters. It matters a lot. And people need to be aware that it matters. And the way that you evaluate that is via people having strong opinions about what is good code and what is not good code, right? There may be more or less productive ways to express those opinions, for sure, but if you lose that culture of technical judgment about what is good and what is bad, then software is over. Then literally, software becomes critical basket weaving, right? And you might feel happy about that for a couple years because you get to participate and feel good, but like, it's not a good place to go. You don't want computers to go there. So if what you're objecting to is the criticism, then there's two levels to this. If what you're objecting to is the criticism, then you're just anti-engineering, and that's no good, right? If what you're objecting is the flavor and attitude and the nature with which Casey was expressing his criticism, then there's a little bit more of a point there. However, again, you eliminate that at your peril, right? It is well known that many of the greatest contributors to society, not just in software, but in all science and technology and the arts, everywhere, many of those people have been hard to work with for one reason or another, and partially that's because they care tremendously about what they are doing. They care tremendously about the form in which they are working, all right? You might say, oh, but that guy doesn't need to be crotchety and mean about that thing, but you can't like take away that part of the personality and have everything else, right? Because that part of the personality is quite likely an integral part of what made the rest of the artist or the scientist as good as they are. right? You can't like just decide Albert Einstein should have had a different personality, but he should have still done all the cool relativity stuff and figured all that out. And then I'm going to sit on my couch and eat Cheetos, and I'll criticize Einstein for not being a good person in some certain way that 100 years later I decide is the right way to be. But I will take all the stuff that he contributed because it helps me eat Cheetos, and that's great, right? That's so like that. It is important for us to see that kind of lazy, bloated, fat social criticism of others as being as toxic as it actually is, and as being as unproductive and decay-inducing as it actually is. That's way more toxic than a programmer saying angry things. That kind of criticism, because that kind of criticism that's in vogue in places like Twitter right now is at a large scale, it will destroy human society. Whereas the crotchety programmer thing on a large scale built a large part of the human society that we have right now. Okay. So like, be very careful with that stuff. And on my part, I feel that one of the better contributions that I can make is to not tolerate that kind of criticism. Like, I just won't put up with it. You know, if you come to this channel with that kind of thing, I'll just ban you because it's stupid and I don't have time for it. And yeah, there's too much of it. It's cheap. It's cheap. All it is posturing so that, you know, the person making the criticism can feel better, can show other people that they are a good person. And it's gross. It's really gross. And it's destructive. We don't need it. If scientists didn't discover the theory of gravity, we could be floating right now. Damn it, scientists. Also, while I sit on the couch and eat Cheetos, I should get as much money as those scientists that invented the transistor. So this meatball looked really good. Let me try to show you the original picture before I put it in and reheated it. The second one, which I will probably eat tomorrow, no way I can handle two of these in one day. All right. So here's the mightiness of the meatball before. It's not focusing. All right. Well, this is a very blurry meatball. Oh, there we go. So now it's just sort of, it's been reheated. Did I see the SNES ray tracing video? No. Let's see. While we're having meatball break. Real-time ray tracing on the Super Nintendo. I mean, it's anti-TOS for us to watch this on stream. So that's pretty great though, dude.
This pillar is using sets of planes. Thus, 4 modules involved. Converting them down to 256 colors and structures on the geometry. Allowing
Tim Apple should definitely hire that guy. Oh, it's on FPGA? Then why does it say on Super Nintendo? Is like the FPGA in the cartridge? That's cheating. That's cheating. Tim Apple, fire that guy for cheating. Okay, that is lame. Hey, everybody. I put an iPhone into the cartridge and it renders really good graphics. Yeah, it's true. You can't put an arbitrary complex thing in there. There's, of course, power limits and such like. But still. You could just put a really good battery in there, and then it'll last for as long as the battery lasts. All right, I'm going to put the second meatball in the refrigerator, and then I could program. Back in a minute. Did I see an endlessly recursive pizza? Infinite pizza. Okay. I mean, is there a game? Yeah. Great. Is there any case where virtual functions are absolutely needed? No. I mean, there's a thing called Turing equivalence that means that that is never the case. Turing equivalence means you do not need virtual functions. I mean, dude, all a virtual function is a function in a lookup table that takes a pointer as its first argument. Like that's all it is. The term virtual function is so silly. Like maybe that's where C started to go wrong, or C++ started to go wrong, is when they used the words virtual function. Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's one in the very long series of completely misnamed things in C++. I should make a list of those. Virtual function, vector, functor, I don't know. I'm sure I could come up with a lot more. And does it matter? I mean, it matters because at some point it just shows you that like some people are pretending like they know what things are and they don't. And like, why should you take them seriously? Reference. Well, no, reference is actually reference. Reference is correct. The problem is the weird thing that comes in is like a pointer is actually reference. And reference is reference also. So it's really that pointers and references are basically the same thing. Did I talk about C++ 20? Here is what I have to say about C++ 20. I mean, come on, guys. Where you question some of the basic assumptions about your design, whether the player can move and discretize units or continuously. Oh, those basic decisions are very important. Those and that's actually where some people go wrong in game design, is they just make those decisions kind of capriciously without really thinking through the consequences. But that's actually where design starts. So I'm glad you got something out of it. tried to go outside today and do my kung fu, and the air was terrible, so I declined to do that. Oh no. So now I'm taking supplements, including lots of vitamin D's. Except I keep dropping them. So rip vitamin D pills. How many? I need to always decide how many pills to take at once here. If you understand correctly, you should never use virtual functions. I basically never use them. I don't think I've used. I mean, we use them for entities in the witness code base, but I wouldn't do it that way again. Probably. It's just not a good way to do things. Let me put it this way. It's not worth having the entire machinery of your programming language geared up to make those happen at the expense of other things that they could be doing instead. Okay. Take your soma, everyone. Yeah, that dude who was criticizing Casey today took lots of his soma. Do you use dependency injection? Dependency injection is one of these terms that was made up by JavaScript people who thought they were making something new, who have no idea that people have been doing that since the 1960s, but in a sounder, more respectable way. So like, I can't even hear the phrase dependency injection seriously. So like, I just don't know what to say about that. Do I use dependency injection? No, of course not. It's stupid. It's the bad version of things that people have been doing well for 60 years. Like, what? It was Java people, JavaScript people don't really need it. I don't know. I see people talking about dependency injection on Hacker News all the time. What's the alternative to virtual functions in C++ without blowing compile time with templates? You have to tell me what you're trying to solve. You're saying what's the alternative to virtual functions, but you're not saying to do what? You want interface for multiple different entities and swap with one another. Okay, but what? What do you want to do with the entities? That's the question. Because I suspect that there are some assumptions there that are incorrect. Someone's doing loud motorcycle stuff outside. Guys, I'm going to be fat now because of eating this meatball. Have some chocolate. Did we use a skybox in the witness? I mean, it was some kind of a shape. It might have been more like a dome. Like, there's no reason to draw like a literal box anymore because you can afford the triangles to do something that is more approximate. What's my Kung Fu routine? There's a bunch of forms that I'm supposed to know. Like I used to know 10 years ago at this time, probably a little more than 10 years, I knew probably 300 and something forms, and I forgot most of them. But I go practice the more major ones, the more important ones. And then just do exercises like frog jumps and, you know, rocking push-ups and stuff like that. Okay. We put that into the distribution. I'm tired from eating this meatball. Dang it. Oh, because let's just not check that in yet. We're still working on that. Okay, great. The meatball was sabotage. Jeff just wants to make me fat so I can't do as many pull-ups because I have to carry the huge belly weight now as I do my pull-ups. Okay. Right. Where, well, oh, we were doing this. Okay, basic meta program. This should be fun and easy. So we set the target name. Okay. The goal of this one is just going to be to show the messages. And at the end, I'll say, this how-to was adapted from this how-to just looks at the messages that come through during compilation without trying to do much with them. We'll explain this. It's fine. Okay. Add build file. It's not going to be ported from C. It's going to be called target. Okay. Message loop. Let's just make it do the messages, okay? We're going to print what kind of message we got. Okay. So here I want to all right, so we need a target file. That's it. Oh, right. Okay. Duplicate case. Dang it. Okay, those are all the messages. So we will handle each one and print things. For your scenario, you want to be able to write a function which does not know about implementation of input parameters. Pass interface-like object to it. As you understood it, C++ is a class way to do this is a pure virtual class and inherit from it. Why? But why? That's not solving a problem, though. That's just saying a way of writing code. But what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? And why is a virtual class the way to do that? Like, why don't you just have a function pointer? You know what I mean? Okay. Okay. Whoop. Okay. Then we want to do something with each of these cases that's useful. And so I'll print loading file, comma, okay, if okay. Whoops, I put %s. Okay, this main program file thing is not correct. We'll ignore that for now. Let's just do this. Gonna do that. And unhandled message type message.kind. Okay, we take out the %s. And there we go. Oh, no, there we don't go. I needed a paren. I'm not lispy enough. There we go. Okay, so we've got our loading file notifications. We've got our import. Let's actually put 2 spaces here. I don't know about this opening closing. If you're passing a function to a C callback, what is the logic for handling context accesses? There isn't. So the deal is if a C callback calls you, you are being called in the C calling convention, which means you don't have a context. You could push one though, right? But in fact, you have to push a context before you would be able to call any non-C calling convention functions. So we didn't get any more question about the C++ entities. Oh. Yeah, no, we didn't. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, like that's the thing that a lot of people don't seem to have a sense of is that let's do this. All right. Importing module basic. Actually, we shouldn't really, because this sort of implies that all these files are from basic, but they're not. So let's not make them look hierarchical like that. They come in kind of unordered, actually. Okay. Import compilation phase, type checked. All right, so for compilation phase, actually that is a thing. That is more sectional. Phase dot phase. So yeah, let's do this. Okay. Print out each compilation phase as we get the message. Note that each time we get new source code, we reset to the beginning multiple times. This is normal. Why is the first path with a capital C? Windows, dude. I don't even know. Something about Windows. Why do you want to use interface like objects? Say you're writing a text editor with client server architecture. What? Okay, so you mean like, okay. You want to implement multiple different clients, one via native GPU, what? And other via end curses. You're already making a lot of assumptions about what's the right way to solve a problem that don't make sense to me, but how should you implement code which handles some back-end logic with different client architectures if you want to compile both clients and backend in one binary and provide user an option to dynamically switch? What's wrong with a function pointer? Why is this hard? What you just said is a function pointer. Like, what's the problem? Maybe I just don't understand it just seems like a really weird question. Like, people act like these things are hard. Like, dude, we've been doing this shit since 1960, all right? Like, what? I'm sorry. It's just, what's really frustrating is not this particular question. It's, again, the massive amount of weird programming propaganda that has built up over decades and that shows itself in this question, right? Like, if you know what a function pointer is, you know that it answers that question, right? And again, we've already said that all a virtual function is a function pointer with an implicit data argument. So, like, obviously you could do it with a function pointer, and it's simpler, probably. How do you write an API with different implementations? Right, that's another way to say it. Well, it's different implementations that, there's another assumption in there, which is you don't want to dispatch them all statically from inside an if statement, which I would actually say is underrated and probably should be the way you do a lot of things. But if you really want like an invisible plugin kind of architecture, then yeah, it's a function pointer. Why is it simpler? Because you don't have this whole thing about some function types are different than other function types, even though they're the same, but you can't assign one to the other. You don't have this whole thing about constructors and destructors and implicit move operations and rule of 3 and rule of 7 and rule of 0. And you don't have the difference between a POD type and a non-POD type, and you don't have to worry about whether or not you can copy something and actually have a copy of it. And you don't have a big laundry list of all the things you have to do in order to make your thing copyable by other people. And I could just keep going for like probably a long time about how it's simpler. And part of the reason I'm annoyed is this doesn't feel like an honest question to me, because it was phrased as like somebody who doesn't know C++ and is asking about how to do something in C++, but it sounds more to be somebody passive-aggressively who likes object-orientedness passive-aggressively arguing against someone who doesn't. And I don't like that part of the question that I'm picking up on, because like someone who is actually trying to solve a specific problem would have a specific problem. And this question doesn't. So I'm just suspicious of the question, right? I'm suspicious that I'm being trolled. And honestly, I will give no quarter to people like that anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of putting up with them. Like 22-year-old programmers who think they're smart because they watched a modern C++ video on YouTube. Like, I just have no time for that. The world will not end up in a good place if we give those people too much credit. That's just how I feel about it. Sorry. Now, that might not actually be the case of what's happening in this Q&A, but it feels like that to me. You don't think it's propaganda. You think people don't know how virtual works behind the scene. I think that's correct that people don't know how it works. But part of the propaganda is you're not supposed to know how it works. Both to give implementations maximal freedom, but also because a high-level cultured programmer doesn't need to know how it works. We program to the C++ memory model, which doesn't actually have anything to say about that or whatever. I mean, that's not quite right. C++ memory model is about something different, but you know what I'm saying. Now okay, I was 22 and thought I was a real smart programmer at 22 also, but I don't think I would go up to someone who was 49 with decades of experience and say that I was smarter than them. Unless that person was obviously a loser. If I come across as a loser to you, maybe that's my problem. But like, it's good to think you're really smart and really good at what you do when you're 22, but you also need to be ready to learn, because there's so much to know in programming, and it's so hard to know even an appreciable amount of it that early in life that, I mean, just be ready to hit the ground running, right? And I don't know. You're honestly not trolling? Okay. You're actually 22. Okay. Well, okay. So what I would say, if it's an honest question, which I'm still not sure about, but so here's the problem. Here's actually what one of the big problems with software, right, is that starting in the 80s, so prior to the 80s, everybody was just trying to solve real problems and trying to get computers to solve real problems, right? And then starting around the 80s, computers got fast enough that you had a lot more leeway around how you solve the problems, and people started making all these theories about how to solve problems in the best way. And so object-oriented programming is like one of those theories, right? Oh, on the list of things in C++ that are wrong, object-oriented is wrong, right? Because of course, Alan Kay invented the term object-oriented, and it meant something else. It meant small talk, not C++. So like even the term object-oriented is wrong the way people use it. Anyway, so people came up with all these ideas about how to program. And then the problem is those ideas require entire belief structures, right? So if you go to program in C++ object-oriented world representation style, then you start to believe from the way that you're taught that programming work is about building the hierarchy of objects in the right way or something. But that's not actually solving a problem. It's just conforming to a belief structure that you've been given. After you've decided on that hierarchy of objects, you still don't have a program that solves any problems. Now you have to go write the program within that framework that you decided on, right? And so the problem is, as we get further and further away from real actual problems, more and more of what is taught to people as programming is actually not doing anything. It's just shuffling papers around on your desk, right? And so, like, the question of how do I do an interface that blah, 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 is just shuffling the papers around on your desk, because it's not actually solving a problem. Like, what I would say is write the editor and then write the plugins or whatever, write the functionality, make all the functionality work. And then if you're dispatching between them with an if statement and it feels kind of hacky and you need more abstraction for a very concrete reason, then put in a function pointer. But I wouldn't even do that. I would just have an if statement that turns them on or off for a long time, because it's actually a relatively, that part of writing an editor is so small and so minor in terms of what it solves that I wouldn't even bother for a long time. On the other hand, if you buy into a weird structure or many weird structures, which is what happens, in order to preemptively solve this very small problem before it becomes a problem, you end up taking on all these very large belief structures that are actually very hard to conform to. And you have to conform to those belief structures all the time, because that's what you made your program be. And it actually gives you a much bigger job to do than you actually have to do to solve the actual physical problem that you have in the objective world. All right. So that's the best thing that I can say about this. I don't know how to explain it better. Am I against conceptual models for programming languages in general? Not in general, but I think that people have gotten the wrong idea about them the past few decades. I think they're being used in ways that are not good. For example, by all the people who want to put the maximum amount of UB into your compiler as they can. That's a terrible abuse. Have I read the Knuth books? Like I said before, I was trying to read them, and then someone took them and used them for a monitor stand. But actually, I should go back and steal them from the office now so I can read them. I've read a little bit of some of them. I should read more. He actually had a good video on Twitch or on YouTube from the past 4 or 5 years of him giving a lecture at Stanford about binary decision diagrams, and that was pretty good. But it's 90 minutes, and Knuth talks really slowly and stutters sometimes. So I think it could be cut down to a really good 40-minute video. And I'm tempted to just do that one day, you know. But I'll probably get sued for copying Stanford's thing. But like, it was a good lecture. I was like, yeah, this is great. But it was really slow. Was it a Christmas tree lecture? No, it was just a regular thing. Like literally though, my advice about programming very generally is it's fine to know about all these things that people say about how to structure a program. But if you don't have a program yet, you don't have a structural problem to solve yet. So first make sure you have a program that does something interesting. And then if you need to solve something, you can refactor it to solve that problem. But most of these things that people say, they're not good. Do I think OOP is wrong because of the memory model? That's one of the many things that's wrong about it. Has the language been in beta for almost a year now? Yes, almost a year. Jeff has ordered 25 orders of those meatballs. That meatball I showed you guys, it comes in 2 to a thing. Who is Jeff? Jeff's a friend of mine who sends meatballs. Okay, so we're in the middle of doing this program. Entering phases. Type checked. Okay, I could use a separator here. All right. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. Down here we'll say if phase is equal to dot. No, if phase dot phase is equal to dot post right executable. Phase.executable name, phase.linker exit code. Failed writing whatever. Okay. Ta-da! Isn't that great? Okay. What else can I say in this program? Actually, we could indent this by 2, right? What is it called? Minimum digits. Oh, does that put zeros? No. Oh, it does. Let's not do that. Let's not do that for now. That's another thing we could add to the print function, is like width formatting on integers. There's a bunch of things we could do. We could do put commas after thousands. We could do what is the comma character, so we can deal with the weird Europeans who put decimal points in their integers. Lame. All that stuff. Yeah, like why did you guys decide to switch the period and the comma in the numbers? I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense. No wonder you can't handle curved bananas. Like, it's silly. Curved bananas? What's that reference? It's a Brexit reference. Look up Brexit curved bananas. Let me hopefully that doesn't return anything bad. Let's see. Brexit curved bananas. Why did we decide to switch the metric system for the imperial? Okay, here's the thing. When I was young, I was taught all the propaganda about how the metric system is better. But there really are some good things about imperial units that make sense. And some of them are in things that have not been metric. Yeah, Fahrenheit is just better for temperatures than Celsius. I'm sorry. It is. This hasn't been metricized, but 360 degrees in a circle is a really good number of degrees. Like those Greeks knew what they were doing before they joined the European Union. 60 minutes in an hour, really good number of minutes for an hour. Shouldn't be 100 minutes. It should be 60. The metric circle was supposed to be 400. Yeah, that doesn't sound that good. I don't know. I'd have to work it out. Base 60 is the guys from Babylon. Oh, okay. $60 comes from counting with your fingers. Not really. I mean, the reason 60 is really good is because it has a lot of factors. All right. It's divisible by 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and almost 8. You get a half at the end of the 8. And 10 and 12 and 15 and 20. So like 60 is a really good number because it like maximizes the number of factors for a number that's relatively small. Who uses 100 minutes? Nobody that I know of, but like you could imagine that that would be what metric minutes would be. The metric system is just like, who would ever want to divide by 3? Exactly. Whereas everything, even like a mile, right? A mile is 5,280 feet divisible by 3, I think. Yeah. Everything is divisible by 3, just not evenly. Yeah, okay, true fact. True fact. Okay, so this is just an example program where we show things that we might do. This might be enough. So now I just want to explain what's going on. Okay. As the compiler builds the target program, we can listen in on messages that report the status of the program. In later examples, we can use these messages to do sophisticated things, but for now, we'll just use them to report on the status of compilation. To tell the compiler to give us messages, we need to call compiler begin intercept before we add any source to the target workspace, any code, because source and target are, yeah. Now let's add the code. Which is a routine of ours below that will handle the message, that will receive the messages. When we're done, message loop will return. We call okay, so okay. Oh, this is the C porting. If we get a non-null message, each time it advances through the various phases of compilation, which are defined in the compilation phase enum. Print out each phase as we get the message. Each time we get new source code, run directives can do this, as well as code that we might add to target program. Okay. We get this message every time some code has passed type checking. We can inspect the code, search for things, modify code, etc. For now, we'll just report how much code has been type checked. Okay. Okay. We get this message once for each module that is imported. Modules are deduplicated. So if basic is imported 9 times, you'll only see this once because the compiler only imports it once unless it's instantiated. Unless it's intentionally instantiated multiple times by the program. Okay. We get this message once for each file that is loaded for compilation. Each source file A single import will generally be followed by one or more file messages. Representing the files loaded by that module. Okay. I mean, that's a spicy meatball. I really could use a really curved banana right now. Just makes it easy to peel the banana peel. The thing about multiplication past 10 is you actually want to start knowing, you actually want to start getting 3-digit numbers out of it, right? I'm pretty sure I did it up to 16 but times 16 when I was a kid. And kids these days are just proportionally weaker than my generation was. So they're only taught 12 by 12. Base 2 is easy to count with fists. Yeah, it's what they use in Fight Club, base 2. Okay. So I kind of just want to intro this file a little better. Oh, we don't need check down here. Check. Check. Why is 360 degrees better than 420? Because it's a multiple of 60. You get 60 degrees times 6. I guess 420 is a multiple of 60, but it's not an even multiple of 60. So once you divide it in 2, you're stuck. You made a text adventure that stores the game state back in the exe. How stupid is that? I mean, in Windows, it kind of wants to install things without write permission to the executable. So you may have problems with people trying to secure their accounts. Okay. So we made a program here. Okay. The goal of this example is to show a simple metaprogram that builds a target program while viewing the progress of compilation. The ability to do this is one of the most powerful things about this programming language. So, really want to know it, but for now, we are keeping the example simple and not too fancy. This is just a simple target program, the goal of which is to be compiled by the other program in first. You could compile and run this directly, but it's not very interesting. Instead, compile first. All right, so let's make sure that people could do that. Yep. Look, it says hello, sailor. Look at all these things when you pull in, we pulled in Windows. Why did we pull in frickin' Windows? Something in BASIC uses it. We need to change that. What is the UTF-8 for? Forget working directory. Dang it. Okay, you know what? We're going to make this work without Windows. Duplicate Windows definitions here because BASIC uses this for wide to UTF-8. And we don't want to force people to import Windows for command line programs if they don't have to. So we're going to need CP UTF-8. We're going to need actually these for sure. What else? Kernel 32. I would have thought that. Yeah, we could do that. Hey, look. Now before we had thousands of declarations, right? Wait, before we had like 3,000. Now we have like maybe 1,000. GG's. All right. Keep doing that. It seems this is what you would really not encourage, but those who want could have methods, instructs that simply with function pointers and baking this. No. What? Why? Why? What? Look, if you hadn't been taught that objects with methods was the right way to program, would you want that? Like people always say, oh, your language, shouldn't you help people do that? And I'm like, no, I mean, it's just weird questions. Weird questions. You don't want. Well then, but I don't care. Like people who want methods can go use C++. It's fine. They'll just continue to be bad programmers. It's fine. Like I'm not that interested in accommodating people who really believe in object-oriented stuff with this language, because that's how you make a bad language, right? Can you bake at runtime? No, I see the question. No, baking is a compile time operation. That's the point of it. So we don't do runtime JITted stuff. If you wanted to do that, you maybe could eventually do that in the far future by linking the compiler as a library. But I don't recommend that. It's just not worth it. It's a lot of complexity for little benefit. Okay, so this was all good. Are we done with whatever 250? 450. My brain is running out of brain juice. I might need to take another break. Let's just see. We blah 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 blah. Okay, earlier examples showed how a meta program can create workspaces and make programs compile in those workspaces. Make target programs compile in those workspaces. when you do this, you can read a stream of messages to see how compilation is going and use those messages in constructive ways. Okay, that's fine. This is a better bridge into the rest of... Okay. Great. Let's run that again. Oh, well, we should put this in the tests, actually. You just get rid of this. Okay, 450. What's it called? 450 basic metaprogram. I really cannot type. Metaprogram/first. Okay. Baking at runtime sounds a lot like closures. No, I mean, baking in this language literally means creating a compiled version of a function. So that would mean runtime JIT compiling of code, which is just not what we do. Okay. I messed something up. Unable to open target. So did I SVN add it? That's not the problem here, but while I'm thinking about it, I probably did, but... So the problem is this thing is not setting the working directory. We could show that. This thing about finding the path of the compiler is stupid. We should actually supply that, but that's different. Okay. Wait. This is sort of the compiler's problem. Like, it's like not setting the working directory correctly. Or maybe tests is overriding. Hold on. Let me just try this. Yeah, that's not good. When did that happen? What if I put a ./ in front of it? Okay, that's stupid. I'm going to write that down. That's another thing that has to be fixed before shipping the beta. Probably. Or maybe after. I don't know. We could fix it after, but... Terry Crews is streaming an anime game. Can you use a metaprogram to fix the path on the metaprogram? Probably. If you slap enough metaprograms on, you could do anything. You just have to believe in yourself. The only limit is your imagination. Yeah, I don't know why we're not using file path by default for loads that are not... like, they should be relative to the base file. Or I guess the problem is I guess that happens for load. It doesn't happen for add build file. You know, that one we could wait till later. Because I do want to ship this beta, but the LLVM thing can't wait. LLVM thing has to happen. Okay, so that's good. Will it blend? That's great. So added how to 450. Basic no longer requires Windows. See, and that's just visibility. The fact that I made that little demo that prints out everything that gets loaded gives me visibility in what was happening with my program, that I realized that Basic was loading that. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have, because it happened through one indirection step. So that's great. So I wanted to do one more before going on fixing, right? I wanted to do, we could leave the code generation example for later. You know what? I've done enough on this. This is a good beta. So I do want to fix at least the LLVM bug though, because that one is serious. But I do want to take a break before I try to do that. Wow. Have I really only been streaming 2 hours? Is that really what's going on? I think the meatball made me sleepy. Yeah. So I'm going to take a break again. And then we will be done documenting later tonight. And I'll be debugging this LLVM thing. The reality is that I already think of the vacation. Actually, yes. I mean, dude, I'm hyped. It's going to be a nice time next week, hopefully. I haven't taken like a real vacation, like intentionally, in years. So it'll be great. What do I think about crypto? I don't know. It's inscrutable. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. And I'm going to hang up now. We're not going to raid anybody because we've done that a bunch of times. But I'll see you later.